Hello, friends, and welcome to TableTakes presented by Gen Con. I'm subbing in for Bonsai today, who's doing a fabulous charity stream, which you should definitely check out after this. I'm joined today by Christian, Derek, and Marcus. Hello, friends. Great to see you here today.
Hey there. We've let Marcus out from behind the camera, behind the computer screen.
Yes. And I miss Bonsai dearly, but I have to say, Marcus, you are looking fabulous today.
Thank you so much. I wanted to kind of bring the nice, bright energy that Bonsai's orange brings, but I'm not so good in orange. What I do better is with floral.
Yeah, floral's great. I love it so much.
I like how you kept a virtual background, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We gotta step up our games. I gotta get in the green screen action.
Look, that's Bonsai's thing. We can't step on her toes.
That's fair. That's fair. Only one person is allowed to have a green screen at a time.
Yeah, I gotta take this down.
There.
You would have put an effect right there. I would have been so impressed with
If
you.
I pulled this down, there's just a picture of Christian.
There's another green screen behind the green screen.
Yep.
No, Marcus,
Green screen's all the way down.
All right, so before we get to the news today, let's do a little bit of an update. Christian, let's start with you.
As in what I'm doing okay. You know, I've had there's been things going on in the country this week, and that threw me for a little bit of a loop.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with my emotions right now.
Yeah.
In general, but I had a pretty productive week. I bought a weed eater. It does not work.
Oh.
We finished our first Demon Hunters campaign on DG Game Night.
Nice.
Last Friday. After the show, we started a new Savage Worlds campaign on the Zoe channel where it's me and James Durham, and we're the showrunners for Metaverse, actually playing a 2-player game. It's been really fun.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. It's one of the things I'm looking forward to this week. Watched the news a whole bunch, got angry, wanted to burn things. Watched The Princess Bride instead, cried a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a lot. Watched the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view on Saturday, and that gave me a lot of joy.
Stadium Stampede.
Oh my god.
Mwah.
I like that.
That's awesome.
Emma, do you have any idea what's happening?
With what?
The greatest comedy wrestling match of all time.
Yeah, it was just a exhilarating empty arena brawl. It was just a silly comedy fun
In a football stadium.
empty football stadium, and it was just wonderful. It was just hilarious.
It was magical. It gave me the joy I didn't know.
I actually cried with happiness.
I did too.
I've heard a little bit about these things. I've heard that they are just going above and beyond for what is capable with wrestling and just taking it to a whole other level.
Yeah, no, and they managed to tell the story throughout all of these comic shenanigans throughout the whole match. It had like 5 different storylines going on at once, and it was delightful. They took a wrestler who's been wrestling for 30 years, and they did this thing where they were trying to dunk him in the arena side pool, and every time that they pulled him back up out of the water, he was playing a different character.
An incarnation, yeah.
Completely costume change and the whole thing. Like they weren't even trying to like suspend my disbelief, and I appreciated it so much.
That's awesome.
So it has been a long time since I watched wrestling, but I have to say that it was always at its best the more ridiculous and absurd and silly it was.
I agree.
So it sounds like they have at least recognized that during our time of
need.
need.
If you like that kind of thing, and those are Orange Cassidy. Look,
Right.
look, Marcus is doing his Orange Cassidy dance.
All right, Derek, you're up.
Okay. Wow. Well, I mean, news being what it is around the country is a little, it was tough to find something exciting to share with folks. But like the thing that occurred to me is, I think I shared the story a while ago about how in the LFR game that I'm running, one of the players framed another clan for the assassination of his own boss, his own daimyo, which basically is kind of risking touching off civil war a little early in the Empire. So like it's just been this incredibly like tense, complicated game, and we only play once every 2 weeks, which is a challenge. And we're playing online, and there's a million NPCs to keep track of. So, we actually just had to kind of take the game, and I, as the GM, was like, okay, why don't we all just step out of character now? Because I am actually curious whether you, as a group, see any solution or end goal you can work towards. So that, because basically I was like, I feel like you guys are just kind of reacting and you're not sure what's going on and you're just kind of responding to stuff I'm throwing at you, and I can keep throwing stuff at you, so you're always busy. But I feel like you might want to take a moment and figure out where you're going, because it's not like D&D where it's like, okay, we need to go get the other part of the rod so we can defeat the monster. This is kind of like, you have a civil war. What solution do you want to apply here?
Yeah,
and
one of the toughest things about those kinds of games is knowing when to react to things and knowing when to take action yourself.
Yep.
Would you say that it was a productive conversation around that, like the metagaming around that? Did you feel like you guys were able to get something of value out of that?
Yeah, I think it took longer than I would have expected, and I think that it was still like there was still some confusion at times. But like, I think it was very helpful to just admit, like, okay, we're playing a game. Let's just step back and be like, as players, where do we even think this can go? Where do we want this to go? Because there's a lot of ways that it could go. And I was just like, not even as your character, but like, what do you want your character to do here? Like, do you have a plan? Do you need a plan? Because a lot of it too is just like, they're in an L5R, and like the players, I think, were trying to be like, okay, we need to come up with evidence to prove this person's guilt. And I'm like, remember, you're in a society that doesn't care about evidence. They just care who confesses. So like, you can come up with you can do all the investigation that you want, but it doesn't really matter. So are you sure this is where you want to spend your energy? But like, it's just an anecdote of, it's useful sometimes to take your game and step away from it and just be like, where are we going with this?
Now, that's really cool.
I am curious about this. L5R is short for what?
Legend of the Five Rings.
Legend of the Five Rings. I thought so. I am a little bit newer to tabletop than I think most of everyone on this show. So thank you for filling me in on that. That's good to know. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah,
Crab Clan is the best.
That is incorrect.
The Foot Clan is the best?
Scorpion Clan is the best.
I'm hearing Foot Clan. Everyone else is hearing Foot Clan. Foot Clan's the best. Weird. Got some Shredder apologists.
All right, Marcus, you're up.
I am
Tell us
up.
your news. Yeah.
So my news is that the state of the world is pretty terrifying right now all around. I have started reading a new book by Ibram X. Kendi. It's called How to Be an Anti-Racist, and I heavily recommend it. It is one of the best books I've ever read.
I saw a lot of people recommending that on Twitter.
It is. I listened to the first. I bought it on whatever the author read
Audible.
it, so Audible. So I was like, I'm really curious about this, and it is just. I think I listened to 7 hours straight the first day I got it. I couldn't put it down. Highly recommend.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think with everything that's going on right now, for my update, racism has always been there. It's always been really brought front and center now. I think a lot of people are wondering about some of the things that they can do. So like Marcus mentioned, reading books on the subject can be a great thing. If you go on Twitter, there's a lot of threads about petitions that you can sign, numbers that you can call, emails
charities you can donate to.
Charities, exactly. This isn't usually what we talk about on the show, but it's important to us to acknowledge these things and not pretend like it's not happening.
That was one of the kind of like small points of hope that I saw, is that the initial charity that everyone was sharing to donate to apparently got so many donations that they have basically said, look, we're good for now.
Yeah.
Here are 3 other charities you should go consider donating to.
Yeah.
That's good news. That's
good news.
Very, very rare good news that we get.
All right. So let's move on to our headlines, board game news for today. Starting off with Derek, you've got some, I would say this is positive news, a little bit about the future of Gen Con, at least for this year.
I'm certainly excited about it. So we had an email that went out yesterday, I believe. We've had a tweet go out as well about some of the details for Gen Con Online. Now, there's still plenty more to come, but what I want to let people know about is that badge registration will happen on June 1st. Badges for Gen Con Online will be free, but they are required to participate in any of the scheduled events. And those events may have costs depending on the individual event. But the badge to kind of like be a part of it and have a chance to sign up for stuff, that's free. So badge registration opens on June 1st. Event submission. So if you want to run something as part of Gen Con Online, whether you want to run a game online, like an RPG, or if you want to coordinate a board game, or if you have a Twitch channel and you're going to stream with your friends, or you're a company and you want to do a seminar or something like that. All those things, like almost everything that you could do at physical Gen Con has some sort of online analog. And we're welcoming everybody to submit what they would like to try to do, and we will attempt to connect them with players who want to participate in that thing, so that we can still all get some of that like playing game joy of Gen Con, even if we can't physically go. So submissions for that open on June 8th. The ability for attendees to register for those games is going to happen on July 13th. And the convention itself, remember, is the same dates as Gen Con, so July 30th through August 2nd. More details are still going to be coming out for this, so if you kind of want to keep up with that, make sure to sign up for the Gen Con newsletter. If you are particularly curious about the details of Gen Con Online, or how to run games online, make sure to sign up for the event organizer, the EOGM newsletter, and links for that are on the host page.
Cool. I'm personally very excited about this. Obviously, we would all love to go to in-person Gen Con.
Yeah.
I love in-person conventions, but I think there is a lot of very interesting space to be explored here in terms of making an online digital event. Like, there's things you can do in digital that you can't do in person or physical. So I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities to create some really fun things here.
I also
really
love
hoping
the idea. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm really hoping that we'll have a chance to share Gen Con with a ton of people who have never had the opportunity to physically attend Gen Con.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's been one of the things I've been seeing, especially on Twitter, that people, say, what are the silver linings about this physical conventions being canceled? And there's so many people online saying, I've never been able to make it to Gen Con, and I'll finally be able to do it. And people are very excited about that.
Yeah, especially like it's also like you were saying, some people can't travel, some people are not good with a lot of people. So this is really exciting. The idea of having the option to play some game, like event registration, and maybe play some games online, experience those things. That was I've only been to Gen Con once. It was last year's. It was the best convention I've ever been to. And just walking around these hallways with all of the people just playing games and trying things, it was just this energy that I didn't know I needed it, but that's all I wanted. And to get, some people are going to get some kind of experience like that. That makes me feel very happy.
Yeah.
Plus, it's giving a lot of us a chance who do normally run events to do things differently, to try something that hasn't been tried before. Think outside of the box. It's an creative.
Absolutely.
To do things digitally that we haven't been able to do before.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the possibilities.
All right. Up next, we have Christian with some Branden Sanderson news.
Yeah, this is actually it's technically not so much Branden Sanderson news, Call to Adventure news. If you're not familiar with Call to Adventure, it's a rad board game. I'm a big fan of it.
I think we covered it on Kickstarter at one point.
Yeah, it's one of the board games
okay.
I actually own and play. And
nice.
in order to make me buy another copy, what they've done is they've taken my favorite author's favorite work and attached it to it. So Call to Adventure, the Stormlight Archive, based on Branden Sanderson, Stormlight Archive, is going to be available for purchase in retail and hobby shops on July 1st. This has got all of the standard Call to Adventure mechanics, but it's adding on a lot of the great world that Branden Sanderson has created in the Stormlight Archive. In fact, worlds, if we're going to go that far, since it's all, connected together through all of his different book series. And what I'm excited about specifically isn't just painting that new coat of paint on this older game. What it is they're actually going in depth to a point that is that is a game mechanic point on these books that I love so much, that I've never got to see broken down class wise like that before, and it's really cool.
Cool. What's the premise of these books? Because I'm familiar with Branden Sanderson, but I've actually not read any of his work yet. But what's this particular series about?
Well, this particular series is I think it's 3 or 4 books long now, but all of them are like 1,400 plus pages. Yep. So this is his big, his big epic series, his Wheel of Time, if you will. And it focuses on these Knights of Radiance, who are kind of the heroes of the game, but hundreds of years after they have been kind of wiped out, and now there's like this systemic racism and slavery, and the world is crap. But here's this old magic just hiding in plain sight, and the way people interact with that based on where they are in life, where they are in the world. It has one of them, like, every time I think of like some of these storylines, it like just chokes me up, and I get so worked up over it because these characters are so real to me.
That's cool.
Well, that's awesome that you get a game that you like with more stuff from a book that you love. That's just really cool. I'm just happy for you. I don't know anything about this. I'm just happy for you, Christian.
It gives me stuff about the books that I did not know, even though I have read all of those books and listened to all of those books.
Yeah.
To see it like placed out for me with beautiful artwork and giving it to me in a way that I can digest and then play with my friends makes me very happy.
Marcus is just happy that you've been able to find a way to combine your chocolate and your peanut butter together.
Yeah. Make a Branden Sanderson sweet dessert.
I'm not going to be this happy again until they actually put out the RPG for Stormlight Archive.
So how? So you said you played the board game, the Call to Adventure board game. How does that play? Is it like a lot of the other kind of adventure board games that we've seen pop up on Kickstarter, where you kind of like go through encounters and read encounter cards and stuff like that?
A little bit. So one of the cool things about it is you kind of get to create a character at the very beginning, which is one of the things that really drew me to it to begin with, because character creation is one of my favorite parts of RPGs.
Yep.
So you get to kind of do that, and figure out what their what their motivations are as a character, so you get to actually dig into the character work on that, and then play through these adventures that are kind of randomly generated through these decks.
Awesome.
Let's head over to Derek's peanut butter and chocolate.
Possibly, we don't know yet.
Grimness and darkness together at last.
Vampires together.
Yeah, together at last. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time it's happening, but the ninth. So last weekend, the huge Warhammer news was, hey, look, 9th edition. To be honest, I was completely blindsided because I, as a new Warhammer fan, were like, no, all the other fans, the diehard fans, were like, all right, clock's ticking, time for a new edition. Everybody get ready. And I was like, what? There's like numbers are up everywhere. Everything's great. Like, what? Huh? So they announced a new edition of Warhammer. To get through some of the concrete stuff first, that was also announced at the same time. They've got a bunch of new Primaris models because you can't have a Warhammer announcement without new Primaris models, new Space Marines. So now Space Marines can ride bikes. Now they can wield chainswords.
Good for them.
Honestly,
happy.
Now they can have shields, and now an ugly one can chop off your head. They have an executioner guy. So I'm very glad that they've come so far. The people who are not as big into Space Marines are probably happy to see that the new big bad evil for this edition, it looks like it's going to be Necrons. So there's a bunch of new Necron sculpts. And in case, because I've seen these stairs that perhaps not everybody's familiar with the Necrons. They are robot space skeletons.
Yeah,
from Beyond Time.
I don't know anything.
Oh yeah, Terminator.
I could have told you what Necrons were based on their name.
I also had Warhammer described to me about 15 times in the last 10 months, and I still don't know anything about Warhammer. I think the only words I've heard you say, Derek, more than Warhammer is Destiny and Vampire and maybe No.
Okay, yeah, so all of that actually seems to be pretty on brand for me. It's true. So Necrons are basically they're like Terminator robot skeletons in space from the past. And they shoot green beams. So they're going to be the new big
green
beams.
Beams. Okay, beams. I was into it for a second.
In the grimdark future, there is no balanced meals. There are no vegetables. Only potatoes and recycled meat. So Necrons are the new big bad guys. They get a bunch of new sculpts. A lot of their stuff was really old, so the Necron fans are really excited because they get a refresh. They got some new models, some new cool three-legged people with huge swords because it's the space.
Makes sense.
That doesn't sound like a code thing.
In addition to that, there's a new fiction series. I think Dawn of Fire is going to be a whole new fiction series written by some of their key authors to help advance the storyline or supplement stuff.
Awesome.
So they've announced a bunch of things around it. The biggest concrete announcement, I think, for 9th edition, 2 things. First, it is apparently 100% compatible with all the books you currently own.
Ooh.
So your codex and the books they've been putting out recently are all still compatible with 9. Which
Sounds like a new addition to me.
No. So coming from a role-playing background, that was exactly my thought. I'm like, is this a 9th edition or an 8.5th edition?
Soft 8.
Yeah, so we'll see. But it feels like they're keeping at least the stats the same, because that's usually what's in the codexes that matters. Like the individual unit stats are not changing across the board. Like you're not going to add something new or change how things work. But it sounds like they're changing some of the core rules as to how those units will interact. And that, if they're clever, that might be how they'll get a new edition and new rules, combined with making the books you already own not obsolete anymore. They will obviously be releasing new codexes, because they can, and I would like to buy some and get my Death Guard upgraded, but they're not requiring that, at least out of the gate. The second most important announcement of this whole thing is they finally are going to have an app that will have an army builder, it will have a rules reference. They've apparently committed that if you buy the physical codexes and physical rules, you will get those in the app. So I'll just go out and say right now that if they can get anywhere near the level of polish and execution that D&D Beyond has provided for D&D, then this new edition is 100% worth it, and I am all on board. Because
that's
that would be
news.
That's a huge burden or hurdle for new players to get in. It's like army building and how to build your army and how to reference it, how to play at the table. That is incredibly intimidating when you first get into the game. I certainly was, and I still had people who were willing to walk me through the process a lot. So I'm real excited about that. The other kind of details of the 9th edition announcement, they came up with like 9 things that are cool about the new edition, and they're a little more vague. Like the new edition is polished. Cool. It's great that they've done a lot of playtesting for this. We'll see what that translates to.
Yeah, what does that mean? What does that exactly mean? We shined it.
They've talked about how they're going to have a narrative system to allow you to connect multiple battles to tell a story over multiple games a little more kind of cohesively.
I like that.
You all get more command points, which most of you have no idea what means. But they say that they're doing that to make it so that you can more easily play one faction instead of having to do now what's called soup, where you get a bunch of allied factions together and you bring the toys you really want to play with, but you get the command points you use to do cool stuff with them by bringing these chumps that you don't really care about but are cheap to get more points.
Interesting.
Okay.
Cool.
I have a feeling that's how I would play.
Yeah, I like soup. Soup is great.
I would prefer stew or maybe like a bisque.
Ooh.
So they're also completely redesigning terrain. I guess tanks, and there's starting to be hints that tanks and monsters, like your big cool bottles, will be more effective. Because right now you can basically just like throw some chumps at them, and as long as the chumps like touch it, it's like tag. They're safe and they can't really do a whole lot. There's some really weird things that come out of that.
Can you play tag in Warhammer?
I think I just explained how to do it. Yes, but you can. It's only effective against tanks.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to some Magic news. I know you got stuff, Derek, but we gotta keep moving.
For the Warhammer.
They're the Warhammers, I know. Magic's cool too. So one of the big announcements for Magic the Gathering is new Secret Lair stuff. We've been excited, or I guess I've been excited at least, about Secret Lair on the show before. If you've not heard of Secret Lair, this is a way to get really cool alternate art style cards for a lot of the most played, most interesting, or sometimes just weirdest cards. So I'm not sure exactly how they pick which cards are going to get these refreshes, but they just put a bunch of cool stuff together. And most of the time, even though I don't play a ton of paper Magic, I'm like, I would buy that. Like, that's cool. Me or my husband just like, oh, I will get those things. So they have 5 new Secret Lair drops that you can get in the beginning of June. Coming up very soon, or you can just get the whole thing as a bundle. Like there's been a couple of one-off Secret Lairs, but there was also the first one was a bundle. You just get them all, and if you like any of them, why not just invest in this? I imagine the resale value based on past Secret Lair stuff is pretty decent. So if you're interested in it, definitely check it out. We have the links for here, perfect, because you just click through and see what they are. If you're a Magic player, you'll very quickly see which ones you're interested in. I'm going to give my quick names of each of these sets. Tattoos, robots, planeswalkers, yes, I like fire, and burbs. So if any of those things are compelling to you, then you should check it out. They've also announced Double Masters, which is... it's in their series of Masters cards. So again, if you are a very serious player of Magic, these are cards for more eternal formats. So if you like the old stuff, you play Commander, Legacy, any of those formats, there's going to be a lot of stuff. The Ultimate Masters that came out in 2018 was a smash hit. So definitely keep your eye out for that. Again, the Secret Lair stuff is coming up very soon. June is like 2 days from now. It's insane. So if you want to get any of that stuff, check it out. The next Magic...
so that's all next week, basically. Just
yeah.
Because like time has no meaning, just in case people forgot.
It's
next
like,
week.
It's in June. It's like, no, yeah, next week.
Emma, can I just say something? I can listen to you talk about Magic like all day.
Right?
Like I don't. It's great. I have very little context for this. I've been playing Magic Arena now too much, but. This is great. Thank you. That's all I'm going to say. This is not journalistic integrity here. This is just me being nice.
Oh yeah. This is like I just want to make it exciting for people, right? You can go through and get very grognard about it and really dig into the individual things. I just want the high level here. It's like, just put a bird on it, right? If that phrase is appealing to you at all, then you check out one of these things. In less exciting news, Magic news, all competitive in-person events for 2020 have moved online. So this is a pretty big deal. Through the rest of 2020, there are going to be no physical in-person Magic events. So that's pre-releases, FNMs, tournaments, all of this stuff. FNM is more store-by-store basis, so I guess that's still a little up in the air, but anything that's official Wizards of the Coast is going to be digital now. So that's... again, interesting in the same way that moving conventions online is interesting, because it does, in some ways, make it accessible. And they are doing events where anyone can enter. So on Arena, I forget.
I think this weekend.
Actually, this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Or next weekend. Again, time has no meaning. Coming up very soon, they have the arena open, basically. Mm-hmm. Which is like, hey, pop into Arena at any point and just compete. And you might make it to day 2 and be competitive in this tournament. So
and apparently, I think it starts May 30th, so that's tomorrow.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and I think if you make it to day 2, you might win up to $2,000 based on your win record.
Oh, I can use that.
So Magic events, you don't need to buy into the paper cards. In general, it's a lot easier to earn into this stuff in Arena. So the pay to play or pay to win barrier is much lower, and you don't have to travel for it. So it's, in some ways, it is kind of cool that these things are happening online. More people can do them. It is rough to look like for the rest of the year. We're only in May, almost June now. And no Magic Fests, no big events at conventions, no Commander thing. So it's
a lot of
tough, but
understandable bummers, but with a silver lining.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to put that, Marcus. I like that. So that's all we have for Magic for today. Marcus, you got some D&D live details for us?
Yes, I do, but I'm not going to go too much into it, because today, on the Gen Con Roundtable, immediately following this, we have some of those folks on to talk about D&D Live. Ooh. But the event starts June 18th to June 20th, starring WWE superstars like Xavier Woods, Brian Posehn, who's not a WWE superstar, he's a comedian, Thomas Middleditch, Matthew Lillard, Sam Richardson, David Harbour, tons of, Deborah Ann Wool, tons of celebrity guests. It looks really awesome. It's shaping up to be really fun. Stick around afterwards. You get little details about that, little secrets.
Cool. And last but not least, for our headlines, you've got a code for us.
So I'm going to drop in link right now. I'm about to break the code for you. Hold on. I'm in.
That's the sound of hacking.
That's the sound of hacking. So Codenames is available online. This is not a game that I have a lot of personal attention to, but my partner's family loves this game, and they're really, really sad about not being able to play it together online because there's not a lot of there's tabletop online. There's lots of different things, but nothing that they really want to play. Now Codenames is available online to play with your friends. Please use that link. Please play the game if you want. It's really cool from what I hear.
Yeah, it's
happy.
a fun game.
Our wives' families love it.
It's fun. It's a game that a lot of people can play even if they're not super experienced with games. So if you've been trying to connect with your family over long distance, a lot of us, not necessarily from gamer families, can be a great way just to connect now. Like just have fun, just have some laughs with people across a distance.
We could use that, I think.
I think so, absolutely. So that's it for our headlines.
What was that, Christian?
It's a bit like memory, isn't it?
No. So, have you not played Codenames? I'm surprised.
I have played it a couple.
Yeah. So like Codenames is not just for like casual board game fans. I think one of the things that I really love about Codenames is how useful it is for just really large groups that want to play together and don't want to play another round of Werewolf or something like that.
Oh, okay.
You can play with pretty big groups because you break up into teams. And if anybody's not familiar, you have this board of words, and you have one person on each team who's the spy master on any given round, and they're giving clues to try to get their team to guess particular cards that they know. And their competitor spy master knows, but their teams don't. Yep. So it's like you'll give a one-word clue and you'll give a number, and that indicates how many of the cards relate to the clue that you gave. So you're just trying to get your team to guess your cards before the other one.
Yeah. It looks. I'm looking at the actual the link right now. It looks pretty much set up to go. You could just share that link, set up a room. It's super accessible at the moment. Yeah. Please take advantage of it while you can. This sounds awesome.
Yeah. But wait until after our show, because right now we have something exciting to announce. We have another one of our famous topics. This one's going to be led by Christian, and I'm very excited to discuss it, but I'm going to let Christian kick it off for us. Christian.
All right, so today we are going to be talking about RPG categorization. And obviously that's just splitting up our favorite role-playing games into categories. I decided to do this part one on it about game engines because the skeletons and the bones of games are often what attract us to them, aside from the obvious role-playing fantasy of it all. So obviously we're going to start with the beginning, go a little bit back as far as I don't want to go too much into the history because we're going to be talking way more about history a little bit later. But, role-playing games mostly evolved from these war game miniatures or these miniature war games that, have been played for years and years. And in only 50 years, they've become a completely different animal. And as far as evolution goes, that's pretty fast, I think.
Yeah.
Right? So I wanted to talk specifically about some of the engines that have that we all play or the ones that have influenced the games that we play today. Because, obviously this genre of game has been around for almost 50 years now, so we can see kind of how it's gotten to where it's gotten and where it's going. And I think we're at such an exciting time that it's a good time to be talking about these engines.
Yeah,
especially with so many new people coming into the hobby through D&D.
Yeah.
Giving them I hesitate to say like a roadmap out of D&D, but just like a guide for like a map for what the world outside of the one game they played can look like is great. Like even just reminding people that there are games other than D&D. D&D is great, but sometimes you want to play something else.
I think
go ahead.
See, I always hear this. I am a little bit newer to D&D, but I hear a lot of that, like or to role playing games in general. But I always hear like D&D is the one and trying to break people from D&D or trying to show people other options. I mean, not break people from D&D, but like for me, the first ever RPG I have ever played was Microscope with the creator on Hyper RPG. I never played a game before, and that was the first thing. And then the next one was Ryutama. I've had a really roundabout way, and I've only played 2 games of D&D total.
So also had an excellent doorway into that. I mean, Hyper RPG.
Yeah.
They're not married to Dungeons and Dragons by any stretch of the imagination.
I love seeing
today if it wasn't for those guys.
I love seeing folks enter the hobby in any way. And I think it's really interesting playing with people who have come from one game line and family and come from another game line and family and a completely different one, because there are so many assumptions we have about how games are supposed to be played that when we sit down and play with people who just don't have those because they played in a totally different kind of game, it always makes for a really interesting mix, I think.
Yeah. That's always really fascinating to me. There's a cat. There's a cat now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, we're being raided. Thank you so much, raiders. Welcome in. We're having a topic discussion led by Christian down over there on RPG categorization. Thanks for joining us.
Rated by raiders and cats at the same time. It's very fitting.
We were just talking about game engines, and you specifically had mentioned Dungeons and Dragons as. And you use the term finding a way out of Dungeons and Dragons. Which, by the way, I mean, it's a noble goal, but you'll never actually be able to do it, because what Dungeons and Dragons has done better than any other game system, aside from marketing itself over the years, and thanks to Wizards and Hasbro and all them for getting that done. One thing they've done is they've changed radically from where they started to where they are now. Now they're much more of a hybrid system than the War Games miniatures game that they basically started as.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They've been smart enough to pick up on the trends that have happened over the last 50 years in game design, specifically to the RPG. And they've taken notes and they used them, and they've at least tried different things. It may be the same game of, elves and dwarves in dungeons with dragons that it's always been, but they go about playing it in a more modern way now, even though the rules haven't deviated that much from the original.
Yeah, well, the history really helps there too, because you're with a group of people. It's like you're sitting around. It's like, what are we going to do today? Same thing we do every day, right? Just having that, there's a comfort to it, and it can be very complex and confusing to get into a new system, to learn the bones, to learn the rules of it. So having something you can just be like, oh, I'll just roll another character. I know how to do that. Like there's that to it as well.
Kind of like nice freedom of that. I'm going to plug one of our other great Gen Con shows, Fireside, where we're currently going the creation of D&D 3rd edition. So hearing a lot about that, like the same thing, the people who were making the games and worked on the games had the same background where they were like, well, we did this, we liked this, we saw this was like a Bible, and now it's our turn to kind of take a spin on it. If you want to check that out, it's Wednesdays on Gen Con TV.
The OGL is specifically one of my game changers.
Yeah.
It really is. And then I'm going to talk about those. A couple of engines that have come out over the years that have given way to new ways of playing role-playing games. Obviously, we're starting with Dungeons and Dragons because that's, we got to say that it's kind of the godfather of all the RPGs that we've got now. But let's not forget things like Traveler that came out in 1980, which basically introduced the first overarching meta plot in a game. Not to mention a character creation system that could kill you.
Yep.
You can literally die in character creation, and there's several
Dark Souls.
No, not at all. It's a very space opera, percentage-based engine system. Very.
It was one of the first really big sci-fi games too. At least I don't think it was the first, but it was one of the first really successful ones that really kind of caught on.
Definitely. But you basically played your whole career before you even started playing, because it was all part of your backstory, and it led into that, and it was really neat. But the Imperium being that big meta plot where you were playing in a living world that changed from time to time, that's where it really got its roots in. We have so many games that do that now.
That's really cool.
So I can blame White Wolf on them, is what you're telling me?
Also the champion system, which began our love as role players of buying things with points.
Yep.
Yeah, that's also
points.
That's really interesting because it even harkens to digital role-playing games, right? I feel there's a very strong connection between the two.
A lot of these transfer right over. In fact, there are some digital role-playing games that basically, like some early ones, that basically use the Traveler rules for stuff. And they're just, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's like invasive but good.
They're synergistic.
Funvasive.
It permeates the culture.
That's better. That's better.
Symbiosis.
So champions begat the hero system, which begat everything that we buy now with points. And let's not forget Vampire the Masquerade. I don't know if you've heard of this game, Derek, but you might like it.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah, the storytelling system. It was groundbreaking in that not only did it have it focused so much on the actual narrative and less on the action and breaking up things into actual scenes and giving it a very theater feel, while still having way more rules than it really needed.
I think the other things that were really innovative for my group because Shadowrun and Vampire are really what got me into RPGs in a lot of ways. We were doing a little bit of Risk beforehand, but I think Shadowrun and Vampire were some of the first games that really introduced the idea of, especially Vampire, of not playing a hero, not playing someone who was good, playing somebody who was just explicitly selfish and were working towards their own goals.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's difficult to play a good guy game of Vampire.
Yeah.
I mean, as nice as you want, but at the end of the day, you're still drinking people's blood.
Yeah. It's difficult to play a long good guy game of Vampire.
Temporarily.
Yeah.
You always stay good for a while, but eventually the hunger gets to you. And real emotional stakes were a giant part of that game in the rules. Like, in D&D, you could go through huge emotional stakes and your character could suffer for that. There was mechanics for all of that in Vampire.
Yeah.
And that, and that moved across their entire World of Darkness line and into, all of the other stuff.
I think Vampire was also the game that really kind of drove home the idea that a role-playing game could be just as much like art as a novel or a movie could be. I wouldn't claim that old Vampire was very good at supporting that assertion. But I think it definitely spent a lot of time making it and telling you that you should incorporate theme and mood and atmosphere and motifs and references and things like that, that were just completely different from how to build a balanced encounter, if that makes sense.
Well,
absolutely.
For me, Vampire, I have very limited experience with it. I'm very interested in it. I think it's the first RPG I can track back into my brain because, as you were saying, there's a lot of this think about the mood, think about how things are going with your character, think about the aesthetic, think about this. Because the first time I experienced an RPG was some kids from my theater class in high school LARPing. To doing Vampire the Masquerade LARPs. That was so for me it was like, oh cool, I like vampires, that's fine, I'm gonna go watch Buffy, bye. And so that itself was pretty cool to me because I used to think D&D was World of Warcraft. I just didn't know the difference between the two up until 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Sure.
And I mean, this is really what I'm here for. We talked a little bit about this before the show, and we play Dungeons and Dragons again because that familiarity, that's what the group chose to play. But the bones of it, the mechanics, there's some fun stuff that you can do there. But really what gets me the most, when I tell stories to my husband or my friends or whatever, was like, oh yeah, just this emotional arc, and my character has this relationship, and she's building up this cult. And then all of her followers have to leave so they don't die. And now she has nothing, and just these high emotional stakes. That's what is fun for me personally.
Vampire made me believe you could use games as a real narrative tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
You can tell stories this way, and they are great. And I think in a lot of ways that mindset being so different from the, hey, let's move 6 squares and make an attack. I that a lot more than any other game changed my kind of whole world on how I got to play, because it made me play the way I felt like I wanted to play instead of the ways that just the rules told me I had to.
Yeah.
And a lot of games and rule systems don't allow you to do that so much. Storyteller system does that from the very first page and lets you know it wants to. Another one I want to get into before we go today is the apocalypse world and the Powered by the Apocalypse, and how that has completely changed everything, in my opinion. It's a whole new way of playing a role-playing game as a player, with high emotional stakes, with characters that you care about, without getting bogged down in the rules all the time. It's so much, I'm not going to say it's more accessible, but from someone who is challenged and or confused by rules, it's almost a non-issue.
Yeah. Well, it's
just do what your character would do.
Yeah.
And you'll get through it one way or the other.
There's also the nice part that it really surfaces the idea that it's a joint creation.
Yeah.
So, if you go into a room or if you have a house, you can go into it. You're not sitting there waiting for your DMs, like, what is in my house? It's your house, right? It's like, you tell me what is in your house, what is there, so the fact that it's more collaborative process. And it's weird too, because people are pulling this into D&D and it's like, you're not playing by the rules. You're taking this from other things, being like, oh, D&D is great. It's like, you stole this from this other game.
Well, I think the thing for me that I love so much about Apocalypse World, which the whole Powered by the Apocalypse system I like so much, that it's one of those things where I will basically, at least grab the PDF of almost any game that looks good in it, just to see what the author does, because there's a lot of tools to play there. But I think, I think the thing that really excites me about it is I feel like the designers for Apocalypse World were like, what is the cool thing about playing RPGs? And I think what they settled on was, for them, it wasn't fighting, it wasn't winning combat, it was making decisions, and in most cases, choosing between difficult options. And then I think they said, okay, let's go back from that. And what if we just made a game where that's what you did mechanically, is you just had to make difficult choices. And that's kind of what the very short summation I would give anybody if they're curious about Apocalypse World is, it's not you say what you're going to do and the DM gives you a difficulty modifier and stuff like that. It's like, you decide what you want to do, you make a roll, and chances are you're not going to get everything you want, and you're going to have to make some really tough choices about what you're willing to sacrifice or risk to get what you want. And that, I find that it just cuts straight to a lot of the really interesting meat of what's going on in a lot of games. And I absolutely adore it for that. Even on top of the fact that I think that a lot of the different games that have come out have some of the best both GM and player advice on how to run and play in games. They're just, they're fantastic. Even if you never intend to play an Apocalypse World game, if you're only ever going to stick with D&D, you still should pick up Dungeon World. You still should pick up a number of these games and read them for advice on how to play and for ideas on how to run games and how to play games and how to engage with games.
Yeah, I would even give a shout out to the Apocalypse World, to the book, to just the core rule book. I was like, I haven't played it. It's like, no, I've played a couple of one-shots here and there for it. But even before that, I just read through the whole book. It's a lot more approachable than a lot of the other core rule books, and just very meaty. Just everything in there is very solid and just will really open your mind about role-playing games in general.
For Apocalypse... go ahead.
I was just saying, I was reading, we're going through the document. We have a document that we go through, a little peek behind the curtain. Sorry about that. But there's a great little phrasing in here that I like: fail forward. That doesn't mean there's not risks, but the story progresses no matter what. And that was what I played a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse. I played hundreds of games probably on that system, and all these Apocalypse World, it's this nice, I don't know, it feels like a breathing world, unlike easier. You get to the open breathing kind of existence. I don't, again, I'm super limited. I don't know. I've never played Deadlands. I've never played Vampire. Never played Traveler. But I've played a lot of this, and I really enjoy it. Highly recommend.
All right, friends, we are getting close to time here. Christian, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of put a bow on this. We will be coming back to this again and again because there's so much to cover. I've got part
2 and 3, so we can figure out what kind of gamer you are in the next couple of sessions. So,
any last words about the topic?
Obviously, it's very, very deep, and it goes way beyond just picking things by genre. It's finding your way of playing and finding the system that best can make that happen, and with the people that can best make that happen.
Absolutely. I love it. We're actually going to toss it right back to you, Christian, because we are on to bundles now, and you are, of course, our bundle boss.
I am. Will somebody do the song with Marcus?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got it.
Fonz, I'm not here.
You got it.
Bundle boss.
Oh, man. Even a Final Fantasy tune. I am very happy about that.
I've been playing too much of the 7 remake.
All right. So I had the opportunity this week to really dig into the bundles, download a couple of them and take a look. And I was, when I first heard what they were, I felt a little bit hesitant because Usually I'm used to seeing all these like, great giant bundles of RPGs that I want to play or haven't seen in years. And this was just books to read. So the first is the bundle of holding Designers and Dragons and More, a collection of PDF books that chronicle the highlights of the tabletop role-playing game hobby. Like I said, I went into this not very excited. I then went and I downloaded the bundle, and I have been reading these books all week. They are incredible. They are absolutely incredible. What this includes is a bunch of just really great books. It's got Designers and Dragons from the 70s all the way through the present, basically. There are 4 of them. There's the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the aughts that basically give you almost a documentary feel, like they're telling this sweeping epic story about the history of role-playing games. And it gave me
the Ken Burns of the tabletop industry.
I would watch that.
Very much. Yeah, the author is just so knowledgeable and brilliant, and I want to read all of her books. I only have gotten through about a quarter of the 80s one so far, and it took my mind off of Burning Cities for a good few minutes, and I think that's a resounding endorsement.
Yeah.
The bundle also includes the 40-year history of Gen Con book that came out quite a while ago.
Yeah, right.
This morning, it's so good. We can't go this year, but we can still look at this. It's got the history of Gen Con right in there. All these great old black and white pictures, a foreword that you're not going to want to miss because it's actually really, really touching. And yeah, no, it's a beautiful book. It's got everything. It's a great coffee table book that you can look at on your screen, and it made me smile.
Nice.
So there you go. That's just one of the bundles.
And that supports the Heart to Heart International. That's the Designers, Dragons, and More.
Nice.
Yes. Yes, and that's great bundle. Pick it up. It's totally worth it. Now, this other one, I was gonna barely look at it all because it's just not the kind of thing that I'm into. And I have bought it.
I fell into the trap.
It's not even a trap. What this is like an incredible deal. It's not about being a trap anymore. So Humble Bundle has got Cosplay Like a Pro. It's a pay what you can situation, like most of them. $20 unlocks everything on this, and it teaches you how to cosplay. Essentially, it is dozens and dozens of books that will teach you how to sew, teach you how to design. You want to do foam armor? They got like 4 books on foam armor. You want patterns? They got patterns. Like if you've ever wanted to get into the cosplay hobby and you have a little extra time on your hands right now, I just figured out what I'm doing with the next 3 months of my life because I've got like 19 books that I can look through to learn how to do anything I want with cosplay.
Are we going to see you in some foam armor soon?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I never go more than a couple of years without it. Let's be honest.
It's an incredible resource, though. Like you were saying, is it $20 unlocks everything?
Yeah, and even like I said, even if you don't know how to sew, there's at least 4 books that will teach you how to sew.
Like, I'm literally buying this for my cousins. Like this is
you have to. I can't even describe how cool this is. There's like the book of foam armor. Or Mending Matters, how to repair your favorite denim. It goes through all this stuff, not to mention how to do cosplay makeup, a guide to sanding. Foamsmith is one of the books in there.
Yeah, and this is very exciting because I've done a little bit of cosplay in the past, but not at this level. And just thinking like, how do I even begin to know where to start to get into this? And this is it. This is the beginning, the start, and the end. This is just everything.
Yeah. Prop and armor making, how to make your own patterns. Steampunk, if you're really into going retro.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And this supports the Hero Initiative and Book Industry Charitable Foundation.
Yes, it does.
Thank you so much, Christian,
wig styling,
for the bundles. That was awesome. Now we're going to turn it over to Derek, aka our Kickstarter queen. Cover the Kickstarters.
Why? Thank you. So we have a lot of Kickstarters this week. So we're going to go through them relatively quickly. We're probably going to hit some of the high points. So I just want to especially encourage people who are watching. If anything at all strikes your fancy, hop over and check it out.
Yeah.
But Christian, let's start with you. You have Shadows of Esterin to tell us about?
Yes, Shadows of Esterin, very famous, probably the most famous French role-playing game. It's putting out its 8th anniversary edition. It's medieval, it's gothic, it's got very, very like dark, low fantasy setting, and the adventures are less about violence and more about investigation and survival. And it's exactly the kind of role-playing game that I always want to play and never actually get to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That art is gorgeous.
The art is
stunning.
It's a gorgeous game. I haven't had a chance to play it, but I've seen its community grow at Gen Con over the years, and it's a very solid, consistent community. It's not a breakout hit, but if you want that fantasy experience, if you don't want to go too far from D&D, but you want something that's a little more horror, a little more darkly moody, Shadows of Esterin is absolutely a must-get.
Nice.
Yeah.
Want to go a little bit more Game of Thrones than Dungeons and Dragons the movie? That might be the way to go.
Callbacks.
Still want one of the Wayans brothers.
How about you, Emma?
We roll.
All right, up next we have Forest Guardians, Safeguard the Wilderness, with 4 days left, ending Tuesday, June 2nd. This is a tile-placing family game where players are determined to protect the forest and rescue wildlife. This is a cooperative game. So I dug a little bit into this. Usually, as a game designer, I really focus on the game mechanics. First of all, art, style, flavor to it looks absolutely great. I love all those things. Looking at the mechanics of it, seems like a pretty straightforward cooperative game. I didn't see anything in there that was mechanically too exciting. What I did like, in addition to the theme and just the look and flavor of it, was the fact that this is actually made by people in Taiwan and focusing on the ecology of Taiwan. So it's a cultural game that is made by people from this culture. So that's always something that I want to surface and support. Yeah, because it's really great to see we can learn about the ecology and the wildlife in Taiwan without then people from Taiwan are actually benefiting from that. Yeah. So I definitely go check that out if any of those keywords sound good to you.
Cool.
And that has 4 days left, ending on Tuesday, June 2nd. We forgot to mention that Shadows of Esterin also has 4 days left, ending on June 2nd.
Yep.
With 5 days left, I wanted to share Magic Puzzles, which is, okay, so here's the weird pitch, right?
I'm ready.
I hate puzzles, but were I to like them, this is absolutely the kind of puzzle I would love. Hopefully that convinces you to check it out. But this is from some of our friends, or some of my friends at Cards Against Humanity. And this is just like it's one of those puzzles where they got a bunch of magicians, and they're promising that when you finish the puzzle, a magic trick happens. And I really want to know what that magic trick is. But they're like, well, we can't tell you because.
Oh, what if the magic trick is it all comes apart and you have to start over? Like,
yeah.
Not signing up for that one.
Yeah, it is Cards Against Humanity people, so.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But the thing that I really love about it is that it's not the usual puzzle piece orientation where all the puzzle pieces kind of look the same. They're all sculpted differently to match the art, to make things a little more interesting and challenging, and. It also they tried to do the art to tell a story that you could experience as you were building the puzzle. Like, you're not going to be read a narrative, but like you're going to find out, like, this puzzle piece is this little character on it, and it goes next to this puzzle piece, and they probably had a thing over here. So it feels like they were very, very intentional with the art and the cutting and the construction to make it kind of engaging on all the pieces all the way through. It's really, really neat. Even if I'm not normally a puzzle fan.
Okay, as someone who loves puzzles, I'm going to give the flip side of that. If you do love puzzles, there's different types of puzzle lovers out there. I'll put that out there. But this does solve a lot of kind of the issues that people have, that I have with puzzles. It's like, do you want to do 300 pieces that are just the same color of blue sky? Maybe some masochists do, but for me, I love I don't want it to be too hard. I just love the satisfaction of building this thing that comes together. So the shapes of the pieces, the fact that each piece has like a character on it, so you don't just have these big swaths of color.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of stuff, a lot of innovation in puzzle, which I think is cool.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of that, really.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. Let's celebrate
5 days
while we
left.
have it. 5 days.
All right, up next we have the Railroad Inc. Challenge Kickstarter. 5 days left, ending Wednesday, June 3rd. Railroad Inc., obviously, very successful roll and write. They came out, oh gosh, what is time? Not last year. I think it was the year before last year. It's been out for a couple of years now.
From the before times.
The before times, yes, exactly. And this one is fun because it was a roll and write with a big chunky dice. I actually got both versions of it because I just love the look and the feel of it. It's a very fun game. What's interesting about Railroad Inc. Challenge is they're leaning into the player interaction part of it, which is not something normally that most players of roll and writes go into. If you're playing original Railroad Inc., Welcome to, a lot of these games, kind of the point is you can do your own little thing, your own little puzzle. A lot of people really enjoy that. The interaction, from what I can see, however, is going after shared goals. So it's not like you're messing, at least as far as I see, you're not messing up what other people are doing. So at least as far as that goes, there's probably a little bit more not direct take that. But there's also some interesting innovations here, including buildings on the board that trigger special powers. And there's 2 new expansions. So they're doing 2 new versions again, which is cool.
Yeah, it was the buildings that stood out to me as the interesting, because it felt like there might be a pseudo or a very light engine building component to it. That sounds a little more engaging to me than the usual roll and write puzzle.
Yeah, and that has
5 days left. Marcus, Sea of Legends.
Yeah. Sea of Legends. So, Sea of Legends with 5 days left is a swashbuckling 1 to 4 player adventure. There's been some promise of fishing from one of the designers to Emma that we're going to hold you to. There's a link down there if you want to check out a great interview that we had with one of the designers, Ryan Schmalz, good friend of mine, lovely human being. It's a really cool game. If you want to check it out, if you like pirates, if you like this kind of... It's one of the features is the unique stories, also some really gorgeous minis, and if you can take a look at the art, like it pretty much speaks for itself. If you
We've got a couple episodes of the Brothers Murph painting some of those big minis, so you can get a really, really good look at them.
I'm all about this one, Marcus.
Wait, what was that?
I'm all about this one.
You're all about this one. Let's do it then.
I especially like that it says chart a course for adventure, because it just... I appreciate anything that will steal lyrics from the Love Boat theme song.
Not enough RPGs do that these days. That's one fix. We need to fix that.
Stupid. Sorry.
I famously got suckered into this. Was that, again, I forget time. That was last week or the week before? Probably whenever Ryan was on here. Yeah.
2 weeks, yeah.
I got suckered into backing this. I think it looks really cool. Definitely been promised fishing. I'm going to hold Ryan to that. Probably not really. One thing that I've liked being a backer of the campaign is they're doing lots of different updates, including kind of choose your own adventure story. So all of the backers get to get the story just in the updates, and then they can go to BGG and vote on what direction they want the story to go. So that's been a really fun addition to the campaign.
I like that.
Well, speaking of troubleshooters, I'm not as good as Transition with Bonsai, but to be as fair, I'm not as bad as Transitions as Bonsai. So, the Troubleshooters is an action-adventure RPG. Bonsai, I love you, come back. With 6 days left, Troubleshooters, an action-adventure RPG. It is kind of in the Franco-Belgian style art, based off a lot of comic books from that time. So it's basically a action-adventure tabletop role-playing game of international mystery set in the 60s and inspired by the comics. Here's some images up on the screen right now. It's got a gorgeous full book in color. It's got take a look at it while you got it. I'm going to drop the link in chat. It is really worth a look at. I didn't think I was going to be super interested in it until I went through the videos, saw the art, saw the characters. It looks like something I really want to play. I wasn't expecting to like this as much. So, yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, it's great. Nailed it.
Oh, whoa. Okay, that was pretty good. Speaking of
well, the only other thing that I want to mention with these troubleshooters is that this is from the same Scandinavian studio that puts out Cult, which is this really dark, horrific game that I really love. So I do love that. Like it's nice that the studio is not trying to just stick on like the serious, dark, gloomy side of things. Yeah. They're also swinging back around. Like I personally just love this.
I also enjoy fun.
Yeah, well, I just love the explosion of games we're getting out of Europe in general and Scandinavia in particular, because I like to see a different approach in a lot of these games.
So, Marcus.
Yeah.
I just want you to quit playing games and get on to the next Kickstarter.
Well,
if
you know what, Emma? I think I will, because this Kickstarter, if you like big boys, itty bitty boys, Mississippi boys, inner city boys, pretty boys with a bow tie, there is a boy in this band for you. Welcome to Battle of the Bands by Game and a Curry. Here, take a look at this art here. This is a fast-paced take-that card game with drafting elements where you take on the role of a music producer building a band. It plays 3 to 6 players, and it looks like a lot of fun. I have a personal friend who made this game, so I'm super hyped about it. I have a lot of... I'm backing it already. I am super sold on this. As soon as I saw the Kickstarter go up, I'm like,
you will play with me as soon as you get it.
Oh, you believe it?
Yeah.
There's also even a, if you're interested, anyone, there's a $50 tier where you just get 2 copies of the game, so you can get one for a friend if they're interested in this. So, yeah, maybe check that out. There's a link in chat for you. Yeah. I believe, though, I'm hearing there appears to be some kind of whispers, Derek. What is that about? What is whispers? Do you hear those?
Do you mean a War of Whispers, perhaps? Dark Alliance? So this is just we talked about this before. I think we covered the Kickstarter at one point. Shut Up and Sit Down had a very glowing review of the base game recently, where they said that it was the Game of Thrones board game, but in about 45 minutes or an hour and a half or so. Like that whole experience, but much faster and more focused.
That's
so
the
this is
that experience to be anyway.
This is a chance to get the game, because I don't know if it's out in retail yet, but you can get the new collector's edition. There's an expansion for it. There's some upgraded components. If you like kind of like manipulative-y games, which, shocker, I do, this is definitely a project you're going to want to check out, because it seems to boil a lot of that experience down and kind of really, really focus it on a fast, accessible game. So that has 6 days left, ending Thursday, June 4th. And then another anniversary edition is Tanto Cuore's 10th anniversary edition. Now, so this is going to be weird, but how many of you have played Dominion?
I'm looking at the art for this game.
Hold on, we'll get there. How many have played Dominion and felt, this theme is not exciting enough for me. I want a bunch of anime maids instead. Then literally this game is for you. It is very close to the kind of original Dominion rules, but it's a mansion full of cute maids. This Kickstarter, yes?
It's a what?
A mansion full of cute maids.
So this is the one Kickstarter I didn't actually take a look at. I didn't look at the art before I clicked on it, and now seeing it, I'm going to put it up on the screen one more time. That is exactly what that is.
Yep. Yeah. It's one of those games. I don't mean to be mean, but originally I got it to have a game to inflict on my friends when you want to be mean to them, and then we played it and we're like, oh, this is actually really solid.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
I will say at least they're wearing a little more clothing than I was expecting. That's something good that I can say about the game.
Yes. If you want to get the Holiday Island Vacation expansion, you can get that. There's also the Oktoberfest expansion. But anyway, this Kickstarter is kind of a 10th anniversary and it takes it online.
One of them cleans up.
Oh yeah, that's maybe there's a chore wheel. Like a maid's chore wheel.
There's so many of them. All right, Marcus.
That has 6 days left.
You're next.
Okay, with 7 days left, we have Plot-A-Lot, a new card game for the whole family. I'm going to kind of go through this one a little quickly. You could play, you could play with the entire family here. It's a lot of fun. If you like caterpillar infestation and vegetable frustration, this game is for you. There's also a little air of mischief, which I like. Marcus is going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 and the potential mischief rating. This game looks really cool. As you can see, the art is really nice. It looks like about a 40 card game. It looks genuinely kind of cute. I would love to play this with my family.
And it's got artichokes in it too. Maybe I can do a crossover.
That's why I felt bad taking this from you, because I was like, oh, but it's artichokes.
Yeah, but she abandoned them all, so she clearly doesn't want artichokes.
I have nothing against artichokes.
Except that you're abandoning them all.
They're invading the garden. What are we gonna do?
Well, you got to get rid of them.
them.
Okay, I get that. You can't let the artichokes invade the garden. I'm with that. I stand with them on this one. Yeah. But yeah, you check that out. There's 7 days left on that one.
All right. Next up, we have Food Chain Island. This one has 8 days left, ending Saturday, June 6th. We say this for all of the Kickstarters, but just go ahead and click on this link and check out the art, because the art for this is hilarious and funny. I'm a big fan of...
We only say that about the ones with the good art.
Well...
You're like pointing at, hey, this looks awesome.
Yeah. Other ones will be like, don't look at the page. It's kind of
well,
like...
I mean, the art is...
providing his service, Emma.
The art is often what pulls us into a lot of these Kickstarters.
Yeah. So this is an 18-card game. It's a wallet game from Button Chai Games. Big fan of Button Chai personally, and Jason Tagmeyer. And this is a solo game too, which is really cool. I think it's obviously a very great time to be working on something like this. And the Button Chai games also, because they're so small and so easy to put together, they tend to come out very quickly. So this is sad to say, but by the time this is actually available to you, might still be in some form of quarantine. So getting a solo game.
The one thing I would say about this game is that when I first saw the project, my immediate impression was, this is a simplified, funny version of Food Chain Magnate. Interesting. And I clicked on it, and it absolutely in no way is that. So just in case anybody was excited, nope, not that.
Yeah, it's basically they're all cards, but a lot of tile movement game. So it's a puzzle game, solo game. But the art is cute, and it just looks really fun and satisfying. And
I really
definitely
like
recommend you check that out.
Yeah, there's looking through it and seeing that there's ways to like just progressively make the game a little harder if you've played it a lot of times, because there's a lot of like looking through it, it looks like there's a lot of replayability, and the bonus of that is that you can actually up the difficulty on yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Up next, we have Pergola Dice Solar Series with 8 days left, ending Sunday, June 6th. Just click on the link and look at the picture. Unfortunately, we're showing the static images here, but they don't really capture, because this dice, wait for it, it's got swirly glitter stuff inside of it. You roll the dice, just look at the videos and the GIFs. Like, you won't get it until you look at it, because it actually has a liquid that swirls around. You roll it, and then it keeps swirling.
I knew,
that's the whole thing.
I knew what put this liquid inside of dice.
Yes.
I've always wanted my dice filled with juice, and now I finally have it.
Ever since Gushers came out. Like, these look like 10-sided dice that I can eat.
Yeah, don't eat them.
When I added those to the agenda, I knew that you would be all over it.
I've just been clicking on and watching these videos, because you just
And if they're even half as delicious as Tide Pods, I'm buying them.
Do they inject them? Do they actually how do they get the juice inside the dice?
I
that's
don't
a trade
know.
secret.
I think it's a trade secret.
If
Exactly.
anyone knows how they get the juice inside the dice, DM me on Twitter. Best kind of worst. I'm curious about that dice.
Do you really
have to block
know?
so many people?
So that has 8 days left, right?
Yep.
Juice-Dradic equation.
So the final Kickstarter we want to go through this week, with 9 days left, is Little Box RPGs. And just very quickly, these are two one-shot, self-contained, no prep, very narrative kind of RPGs in a box. That use cards and kind of dry erase markers and stuff like that to allow you to kind of tell a story very quickly. So you're not going to be going on a D&D adventure for these. One is Village Song, one is Our Mundane Supernatural Life. But if you kind of want to sit down with some friends and just like dive into a very like personal story with your group, these strike me as really good ways to kind of do that. Like, I'm a huge fan for any no prep, take off the shelf, throw on the table, tell a story, and it's one shot, so you don't need to worry about kind of dragging that out for too long.
Are these
the
same people who made Story Brewers? Okay, these are the same people who made the Good Society. I love that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's fantastic. The monologue tokens is one of my favorite things in tabletop games that I've played. That's awesome. Sorry, I didn't realize it was them.
But I want 2 of them.
Well, now you can get 2 in this project. So here you go. And that is it for our Kickstarters this week.
All right, and that is everything that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to say, but wait, there's more. TableTakes is not the only show that we do here on Gen Con TV. We actually have the Gen Con Roundtable right after this, which is the D&D live and playing online. So definitely stick around and check that out. Then on Mondays, we have Board Games with the Brothers Murph at 6 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have This Game Gets Dicey at 1:30 p.m. Then the Fireside, which we mentioned, History of D&D at 4 p.m. Friday, every week, we're here, 2 p.m. for TableTakes. Remember to follow and subscribe, turn on notifications if you've been enjoying the show. We really love having you here. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us. Thank you, Christian, Marcus, and Derek for being here. I'm Emma, really happy to share the news with you today, and look forward to seeing you all next week.
Be safe out there, everybody.
Yeah. See you
Bye.
soon.
Take care of yourselves.
Be right back.